Okay, so that's the scene setter for the bump. First of all, this would led me to the question about auditioning for the part. I think the guy looks the part, but he doesn't sound the part. He's he doesn't have any sort of Latin affect. Not that you have to be a Latin king. And then at the very end, when he said thank you, I thought that was a little out of character for this rough and tough guy. Here, thank you. Like have a nice day. Okay, so how does that work? How does that process work? How do you get the guy that you're going to use?
Yeah, there definitely would be a process. I've used undercover employees or agents on a few of my own cases, and you would normally coordinate with the undercover coordinator and ask, or maybe inform them rather is a better description of what you need, what kind of scenario you're hoping to introduce into the case, and the type of individual that would be best to do that. The undercover coordinator can canvass not only the division, but the entire FBI to identify an undercover that'd be appropriate. So yeah, you would definitely be given some options. I've been given options historically, and they'd give you individuals that they think would be a good fit that are available that aren't already, I want to say, encumbered in an undercover operation that's ongoing. And that would be available, what I would kind of refer to as a cameo appearance in your case.
Are there
Oh,
guys that
yeah.
that's all they do is this undercover stuff, or could it be anybody?
Not any agent can be an undercover employee just on a whim. You could get special approvals to do what I would say is a cameo appearance, but the undercover employees or undercover agents in the bureau go through specialized training, and they have backstopping, and even psychological tests, as they're ongoing to make sure that the role they're playing is still a role and not an official thing for them now, but clearly, but. Yeah, in my experience, everyone that I've used has been undercover as a collateral assignment, which then becomes tricky, right? You can't be working too many overt investigations and remain in the undercover program.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. Racist Cat said that the special agent Patrick Sanford, who testified in the previous trial, felt that Donna was the one who would call somebody who got stopped like this. Now, what exactly was said to her? Michael Bryan, what exactly was said to her?
Yeah, I know some of it was a little rough to understand, but basically, this agent, this undercover guy, is saying, "Hey, we appreciate what you've done for Katie McBenoit, who's been, you've been taking care of her, but there's a guy that also helped with the problem you had up north, and we like to see that you take care of him as well." And she's what? And that's when he says, "Here, this will explain it. It's the flyer that asked for $5,000." And the idea is that they're going to put $5,000 on his commissary account or however they do those things, Michael.
Yeah.
And the idea is just to get her agitated, and it worked. That's for sure. How did they,
Yeah.
Michael? How do they target? With this case, you got a few options, right? You could have
Right.
bumped a few different people. How does that
Right.
process take place?
Well, the process takes place through some planning. Clearly, you would be planning with the investigators, whether it's state and local that you're assisting, or even if it was just a straight FBI case. There'd be some coordination with the undercover employee, the undercover coordinator, supervisors, as well as even the prosecution in cases like this. When I look at this one, I really thought it was just really well done. I know that maybe the UCE wasn't a true gang member, but I thought that some of that stylistically is helpful in the sense that he's not going to be too threatening, so that the target, Don in this case, doesn't feel overly threatened. It doesn't become a new crime, so to speak. And I thought that was actually probably done very purposefully. In this case, to answer your question a little bit more, is that I like the way they picked her, and I think they picked her because of what Agent Sanford mentioned is what they felt that when they looked at the phone analysis, the phone tree, that if they called bumped Donna, is that she would domino the phone calls up the chain, and that it would go to Charlie, and then Charlie would call fall on, and they saw that originally already in the historical records, and I think it was a great example to prove the conspiracy that all these players are involved in it. It happened as as that agent had explained it likely would. And which is why, you know, they did the event also, was to prove that part of the conspiracy, not just to get them talking, but to prove that kind of hierarchical interaction.
So is it the weakest link, or is she considered the primary link, or the one who controls in this type of analysis?
I think for me, looking at it in my own cases, it's the one that's going to likely give you the best response that you're looking for, which is, I want this person to get nervous and begin to resurface all the conversations. And so I'd be looking for somebody that's has some control, knowledge, and isn't savvy enough to take it off the phones and simply make phone calls. You can imagine how this would have gone differently if the criminal experience would have been better to not use cell phones to communicate with each other, or landlines even.
And my second question on that is, he was kind of a big guy, but he was very pleasant, very kind, right? Thank you.
Yeah, he looks kind of scary, but he sounds very nice.
He looks scary, but sounds like. Does size or gender have anything to do with who you pick?
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, surprisingly, in several of the gang cases I've used where I've tried to elicit information from a target, I've typically used a female or a woman. They're just they're more disarming. The male subject doesn't feel as threatened by them and tends to be a little more chatty with them, especially hopefully this doesn't offend your viewers, but
attractive. Don't wait.
An attractive female talking to a male target, we tend to get
typical man.
Yep,
we want.
That's right.
But I thought he played the role very well, in that you don't want to be too intimidating and too scary to where she runs away. We want her to stay engaged, right? We don't want her to run away screaming. That's not helpful to a case.
No.
And we don't want her to feel so threatened that maybe she goes to law enforcement because it was so scary. We want it to be just enough to elicit that fear response, but not the flight response. And to really do exactly I mean, I can't imagine that this is not the exact result they wanted, which is she stayed put, she listened, he clarifies why he's there, she takes the gift or the paper that they wanted to give her, which shows that she has knowledge now that the events took place. Because if someone handed you an article about something unrelated and you didn't have any involvement, you'd be like, what are you talking about? Get away from me. Get away from me, crazy person. You wouldn't put it in your purse.
Yeah.
And then, her first interactions are to make phone calls as they had hoped. And then, so yeah, they would have had what I would refer to as electronic and physical surveillance of her and others at that time to watch the actions.